And we'll talk about machine learning and how Python can be used in machine learning. Okay, machine learning is a big topic. It requires different session, and it is not, it cannot be explained fully in one session, but it's an overview. So if you are not aware, machine learning enables computers to learn from data without actually explicitly programming it. Okay. um, so if you are already aware, machine learning, right, deep learning, all those things, artificial intelligence, you might have heard some of the algorithms. So it can be broadly classified into few categories: supervised, unsupervised, reinforcement learning. There are other new models coming up, that anyway we'll not talk about all this in this session. So we'll talk about mostly into the supervised learning. So it involves label data, right? Unsupervised learning involves unlabeled data. Okay, and reinforced learning is based on rewards and penalties. Okay. uh, as I told, right, we cannot explain everything in this session, but it just flavor how Python can be used. So we'll talk about two Python module, that is regression classification. Both are supervised learning. Okay. To installed, so we have to actually no import this skyline. So to do that, you have to know install, right, will not be available. So to do that, you have to do a pip install. So you have to do skit. Okay. So sci, so to install skykit. Okay. Learn. So this is how we have to install. So it is, I have already installed, so it is satisfied. So just to show that this is the package. Okay, skykit. As you know, maybe you might not be aware, all right. So to do anything in machine learning, at least in supervised learning, you have to train the model with the existing data, and then you have to, your model will be able to predict reasonably well, right, with the test data or the new data. Okay. So we'll talk about, so what I have done. So it's a, since it's a big code, I will not waste time writing that here. So I've already written the code. So you have to import this module numpy, pandas, matplot is to visualize the data from skykit, right, package. We will be importing the skylearn. So this is actually used to train this for splitting the test data and training data. Okay, this is the linear regression is the algorithm. Standard scalar we will talk about the later, and I have imported mean square to see the difference between result, expected result. Okay. So this actually, we need some data, right? Since we do not have the data, so I have generated some data. Assume x and y relation is something like this, right? So I have generated some data. So for x input, this will be the y output. Okay. So for any supervised learning, you have to whatever data available, you have to split it, right, into test and train data, right? So test data, I have to keep it around 20%, I got more or less. Okay. So this is the way where this is the right command or module, how we can split the data. Okay. After splitting the data, right, so as you can see, it will split the data into x train, x test, y train, y test. Okay. So these underscore train is the training data, and test is the test data, where we will see with how the our model is. Okay. So you have to train the data. So to train the data, we have to first do no standard scaling. So it is used to make to ensure that features contribute equally to the model, okay, preventing features with large magnitudes from dominating the learning process. So if there is some very large magnitude data outside the normal data, it will actually might dominate the learning process, okay, it might push the data on those path, okay. So this will the standard scalar command or the package will actually ensure standardization, okay. So we have to so we are doing standardization, and then we are calling the standardization right. This is actually the class, right? So we are calling that, and then we are calling the fit transform, right. So this actually combines the functionality of fit and transform in a single step, okay. It calculates the required parameters like mean and standard deviation from the input data. So it's the input data, and then applies the transformation. See what is the purpose for this, right? So it is used when you are working with the data for the first time and need to compute the parameters for transformation, okay. So this will actually transform the data, okay. And then right, we are doing the transformation. So this uses the parameters right, that were computed during fit and transform the data. It does not recompute these parameters, okay. It is used to apply the transformation to new or test data, ensuring the same scaling is applied as for the training data, okay. So same scaling should be applied the test data also, okay. Now we will no create an object. So this is a linear regression model. We are creating an object, and we are trying to right, do the train the data, okay, with the x train, which is the scale one, and the y train. This will actually train the data, okay. Depending on data, it might take some time, okay. So next is we are predicting the data, okay. This may not be right, if you do not know anything about machine learning, it might be difficult. But on the top level, what we did, we have assume we have the data. So we have some data input and output, and then we splitted the data into train data and test data. So we are training on 80% of the data, and then assume we are scaling it, right, so that no large magnitudes are not dominating the learning process. And then we are using the existing model to train our data, and then we are predicting it. So if you see, we are predicting the test data, okay. And then we are trying to see how our prediction went with respect to no output of the test data, with respect to mean square. And then we are trying to plot it here and see how the result looks, okay. So I will run it. As you can see, these blue circles are the actual data, and this is the regression line, okay. So as you can see, the regression line is able to follow the no reasonably the data path, okay. So this, as you can see, for this point, for this is the error. So as you can see, it is doing reasonably well, okay. So this is the way how you can use Python, or Python has already module of different machine learning, regression, classification, clustering. You can use those module and train your data, okay. Train or test your right, predict your no predict the output, okay. um, there is another algorithm called classification, right. So we can create synth, okay. What we will do, we are creating some, again we are right, we are creating some data, classification data. I will not talk about inside of this, because you need to know the machine learning, what are the parameters and all. So you can import the make classification, which will actually make the data ready. Now we are again simulating, we are splitting the data into x train and y x train and x test, y train and y test. And then we are again to the the this standardization, we are doing it. And then we are calling this logistic right module, and we are trying to train our module, train our train the model with respect to our data. Then we are predicting it, and we are seeing how the score is, and we are trying to put in a graph for visualization. Okay, so let's see. So as you can see, for the classification, right? So as you can see, this yellow and this blue, deep, I would say violet color, right? So these are the classification. As you can see, this has been classified into two zone, right? So and the plus are the prediction, right? As you can see, it has done really reasonably well here and there. As you can see, it has moved. So as you can see, all the red plus are on the yellow side and the blue are on the violet side, so it is able to predict. So as you can see, it is doing reasonably well to predict the data, right? So what we have seen to we have learned about overview of machine learning, and two model we have seen. One is regression and classification, and we have visualized the data, right, with both for the classification and regression. um, so I will not go in depth because it requires another session. So as an overview, what we understood, so Python has already inbuilt module or models, right, which we can use to develop our model or to train our model, predict the data. Okay, that's it guys for this session.